Hi. Um, so I got a couple of questions a while back ago. People noticed that I'm using when it comes to amplifiers, I use Laney Ironheart 120H. Well, I think the 60H is pretty much the same thing, but with a lower output. They also noticed that I'm using a few different types of pedals. When it comes to stomp boxes, I haven't really found my type of sound yet, but the pedal that I use the most is the Black Star metal pedal. I think it's suitable for various types of sound. It has basically two channels, independent channels. Well, actually three channels, but two channels that are independent. So it's a very great pedal. I like it a lot. So anyway, these persons that asked me these questions, the questions was, I want the same sound as you have, how can I get it, and what kind of stuff do I have to buy? So I said to them, basically the gear I'm using, I have a lot of electric guitars, but there's only a few guitars that I really use, and that's my Explorers, Epiphones, Gibsons. I have a Gibson Les Paul Standard that I'm using very much. I also have nowadays I have a Fender Stratocaster. It's a fast guitar, EMGs, and you know, all types of heavy metal stuff on there. The pedal, the Black Star pedal, Laney Ironheart. I said to them exactly what type of cable I'm using, what kind of picks I'm using, what kind of strings I'm using, what gauges I'm using, you know, everything about what I'm using. So one of these persons actually went to a music store in America and tried all this kind of stuff out, and he said, that doesn't sound like you. I can't really get this. So he starts to ask me about how I set the knobs on the amplifier, you know, 3, 2, 0, noon, you know, everything, to go back to the music store and try it out again. And I said, hey man, I don't think that's necessary, because you ain't gonna get the sound that I have. Most of the time the sound is not in what type of gear you're using. It's in your fingers. It's in your fingers. That's where the sound is. I mean, I can go and buy a diesel amplifier. I can go and buy a Mesa Mark IV. I can go and buy a Maxim, you know, the green stomp box boost pedal. That ain't gonna sound like James Hetfield. I mean, maybe you can come pretty close, but it's never gonna sound like it does in you know, on the records and all that kind of stuff that James Hetfield's rhythm guitar is sounding like. I mean, it's in his fingers. That's where the sound comes from. So it's kind of very difficult to get exactly the same sound as someone else. I mean, you can come pretty close, but it ain't never gonna sound like it. So most important is that you create a sound that is a trademark for you. Don't try to imitate others, because I don't think that's gonna do you any good. You need to be remembered for the sound that you created, that is very specific just for you. So I think when it comes to gear, I think of course you can buy exactly the same stuff as someone else, but I think also it's important that you don't sound like someone else, because when you dial in your amplifier, you crank your pedals and all that kind of stuff, that is your unique sound. I mean, if you like that sound, well, that's you. That's your sound, and that sound is what you're going to use for the rest of your life, is if your influences are the same all the time. So that's one thing I think is very important. If you're a musician, I think the sound needs to be your trademark, so others can listen on your records and say, oh wow, hey, that's this guy, I think I've seen him on YouTube or whatever. So that's pretty much what I've been looking for the last 10 or 15 years. My sound, I haven't found it yet. I mean, I tried a lot of amplifiers, Marshall, GSMs, I had Laney's back in the days, not Ironhearts though, but other Laney's. I had a bunch of tube amplifiers, I had a bunch of transistor amplifiers, pedals, I have a lot of pedals, and all the guitars, maybe including the guitars, that I had and I sold and all that kind of stuff, 100 or 200 or maybe even 300 guitars. I mean, it's a huge amount of guitars I've had over the past 15 years. And I still haven't found my sound. I think I'm pretty close now, but I think I need to add something little to my chain to get the sound that I think I'm liking the most. When it comes to guitars, I think it's important, especially for the beginners, if you don't play guitar now, but you're thinking about starting to play guitar, I think it's very important that you have a good guitar. Because if you have a cheap guitar that the string action is this high, and you can't really tune the guitar, it's just some piece of crap, I think it's going to be a lot harder for you to learn to play the guitar. If you have a $500 guitar, that means a good guitar in a decent budget price, I think you have a better possibilities to learn to play the guitar. And once you have the guitar that you like, then you can start to think about amplifiers, stomp boxes and all that kind of stuff, because when it sounds good, that is going to make you want to play guitar all the time. So that's what's going to inspire you to create music. When you got great instruments, you got great gear, and you got some time. Let's say maybe an hour or two a day or so. That would be a great start. Sometimes I play guitar all days. Sometimes I don't play guitar for 2 days. So it's very, it's very different. But if you're gonna be good at guitar, you need to have some great stuff. You need to have the time to practice your instrument. And in that meaning, it doesn't mean that you need to be good to, fix guitars and that kind of stuff. You need to learn to change the strings, maybe do some intonations, but most of all, you need to learn to play the guitar. So that's the big deal here. You don't need an amplifier that costs you like $2,000 or so. You need an amplifier that sounds good in your ears. So you don't need to have a Marshall JCM 800. I mean, it's $1,500. I mean, you don't have to afford that. You can even go very well with a, like a small little combo. I mean, like a modeling amp or anything like that. So you don't have to have the very expensive gear. When it comes to the guitar though, I think you need to have a decent guitar, maybe $500 or above that price, because the guitar is what you're actually using, and you know that actually needs to be repaired at some time. So you need to have decent string action, you know, you need to be, the guitar is going to be your best friend. So that's what it is. So I really think that it's important that you have your stuff that you like, even though it's a Schecter or maybe it's a Ibanez, maybe Gibson or Epiphone or Squier. Doesn't really matter what it is, as long as you like it. That's basically what it's all about. You are creating your trademark with your tone that is in your fingers, in combined with your gear. That's what it is. So I think that, I hope that this video was helpful for those of you that is beginners or maybe thinking about buying new stuff. I mean, you don't need to have you see Zach Wild using $6,000 Gibson Les Pauls. You don't need that. You can get pretty close to that sound with a guitar for like $600-700. That's the truth. That's the way it is. So I'm not going to talk anymore. I see the time is, where the hell, there. It's like 11 minutes now, so I have some shit going on in the other room here, so I need to go away for a while. But I hope that this video was very helpful, and don't sit there and look at this video anymore, because I am going to go away from here. So go and check some prices on guitars and amplifiers and have some fun. Thanks for watching. Bye! And this is the guitar I started my career with. A cheap Squier Strat. About 25 years ago or so. Yeah, that's what it is. It's beaten the crap out of this thing. Dings, scratches, you know, everything. Even some wood is taken away there. This guitar still rocks. It's very good. Yeah, it's a very good guitar. Even though it's been on stage, and you know, I even cracked the neck on it one time, but it's repaired many years ago now. So yeah, that's a good guitar, Squier